The Olympic race that became a total disaster. Picture this. You're watching the Olympics, expecting to witness athletic greatness, record-breaking performances, and the triumph of human spirit. Instead, you're about to witness one of the most chaotic, bizarre, and downright disastrous races in Olympic history. This is the story of the 1904 Olympic Marathon in St. Louis, Missouri, a race so catastrophic that it nearly killed half the participants and changed Olympic safety standards forever. The year was 1904, and the Olympics had come to America for the first time. St. Louis was hosting the Games as part of the World's Fair, and organizers were determined to put on a spectacular show. But when it came to the marathon, spectacular quickly turned into spectacularly dangerous. The race was scheduled for August 30, 1904, at 3 p.m., the hottest part of the day, when temperatures soared to a sweltering 90 degrees Fahrenheit with suffocating humidity. To make matters worse, the 24.85-mile course was a nightmare of dusty dirt roads, steep hills, and virtually no shade. But here's the kicker: race organizers deliberately limited water stations to just 2 points along the entire route. Why? They wanted to study the effects of dehydration on the human body. Yes, you heard that right, they turned Olympic athletes into unwilling test subjects. The 32 runners who lined up at the starting line were as diverse as they were unprepared. There was Felix Carvajal, a Cuban mailman who had hitchhiked and begged his way to St. Louis. He showed up at the starting line wearing street clothes, long pants, and work boots. Fellow competitors had to cut his pants into makeshift shorts with a pair of scissors just minutes before the race began. Then there were Jan Masciani and Len Tanyan, two Tswana tribesmen from South Africa who were in St. Louis as part of the World's Fair's human exhibition, a disturbing practice of the time. They ran barefoot, making them perhaps the most naturally equipped for the ordeal ahead. Most bizarrely, there was Thomas Hicks, an American who would become central to this disaster story, and Frederick Loers, whose story would become the most controversial of all. From the moment the starting pistol fired, chaos ensued. Runners immediately began collapsing from heat exhaustion. The dusty roads kicked up clouds of dirt that choked the athletes, while the blazing sun beat down mercilessly. William Garcia, one of the early favorites, collapsed just 19 miles into the race. When officials found him, he was near death, his body temperature had reached dangerous levels, and he was rushed to the hospital where doctors fought to save his life for hours. But the most shocking story belongs to Thomas Hicks. As Hicks began struggling around mile 10, his trainers made a decision that would be criminal by today's standards. Instead of water, they gave him a mixture of strychnine, yes, the poison, and egg whites, believing it would boost his performance. When that wasn't enough, they administered brandy and more strychnine. Hicks began hallucinating. His skin turned gray, and he started walking like a zombie. His trainers literally had to hold him upright and force his legs to move. Meanwhile, Felix Carvajal was having an adventure of his own. Despite his inappropriate attire, he was running surprisingly well. But then hunger struck. The Cuban mailman spotted an apple orchard along the route and decided to take a snack break. He ate several apples and some green peaches, which promptly gave him severe stomach cramps. He had to stop multiple times due to intestinal distress, effectively turning the Olympic marathon into a bathroom break marathon. While chaos reigned behind him, Frederick Loers was pulling off one of the most audacious cheats in Olympic history. Around mile 9, exhausted and overheated, Loers simply stopped running and hitched a ride in a car for 11 miles. The car broke down near the stadium, so Loers got out and jogged the final stretch, entering the stadium to thunderous applause as the apparent winner. Officials began preparing for the medal ceremony. Photographs were taken. Lors was being congratulated by Alice Roosevelt, the president's daughter, when someone who had witnessed his car ride spoke up. The scandal exploded instantly. Lors claimed it was just a joke, but the damage was done. Thomas Hicks, meanwhile, was barely human anymore. Pumped full of poison and alcohol, he stumbled into the stadium looking more like a walking corpse than a champion. His trainers had to physically support him as he crossed the finish line. He immediately collapsed and required immediate medical attention. His victory time of 3 hours and 28 minutes was one of the slowest in Olympic marathon history, but given the circumstances, it's miraculous he survived at all. Hicks had lost 8 pounds during the race, and was so dehydrated that he didn't urinate for over 24 hours after finishing. Doctors later said he came within minutes of dying. In perhaps the only positive story of the day, Jan Masciani finished fourth despite being chased a mile off course by wild dogs. His companion Len Tanyan finished ninth. These men, running barefoot in a foreign country, displayed incredible resilience and athleticism under impossible conditions. Of the 32 runners who started the race, only 14 finished. Several were hospitalized. The race was immediately dubbed a disaster by newspapers worldwide. The Olympic Committee was forced to completely overhaul marathon safety standards. Felix Carvajal, despite his apple-picking detour and stomach issues, still managed to finish fourth, proving that sometimes the most prepared athlete isn't the one with the best equipment, but the one with the strongest spirit. Frederick Lors was banned from amateur athletics for life, though the ban was later lifted. Thomas Hicks recovered fully but never ran competitively again. The 1904 Olympic marathon stands as a testament to human stupidity, poor planning, and the incredible resilience of the human spirit. It was a race where the real victory wasn't crossing the finish line first. It was simply surviving. This disaster led to fundamental changes in how marathons are conducted. Mandatory water stations, medical support, weather considerations, and strict anti-doping policies. In a twisted way, this catastrophic race saved countless future athletes from similar fates. So the next time you watch an Olympic marathon and see runners grabbing water every few miles, medical teams standing by, and races scheduled for optimal weather conditions, remember the 1904 disaster that made it all possible. Sometimes the greatest victories come from learning from the most spectacular failures.